Abby's green sheet. There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing this time. Oh, that makes it easy.
See, I'm right.
Welcome to tonight's meeting of November 13th, 2023. First, do we have questions about anything on the agenda? Councilor Claudia?
No.
I do,
Okay.
but please allow me to. Okay, so Highland Hills, in the staff memo, it said that there's a new master plan that's nearing completion. Do we have a date certain of when it will wrap up?
I do not, do you know?
The goal is to obviously have it done before the end of the year. They're just doing some final tweaks. I think we've received a revised draft just recently.
Okay. Is that item postponed?
That's what they wrote on my copy.
Is the item postponed?
The Bender's lease agreement is the one that's been postponed, not the modification of the
Okay.
interim, the amendment for the IGA.
Okay, I'm talking about, it's resolution number 37, approving the interim agreement between,
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you answered it, but I was.
So it is as being, I'm sorry.
Getting feedback or something. Okay.
Good to know.
Good now?
Yeah.
Okay, so related to the Carol Butts master plan, park master plan, that is in progress. They anticipate that will be resolved by the end of this year. We do have a revised, City Council was presented the initial draft, and there's been some tweaks to it, and we've just received that information.
Okay, so we
So-
don't have because this follows up into my next question is, what is the benefit of us extending and for how long? Because, why is it, I wrote a question of why not another year, why a year and a half? Like, why is it a year and a half and not date certain of 2 years?
That
or
was
a
at the
year?
request of Highland Hills.
Okay.
Originally, as for a one-year extension, they asked for a year and a half. We're still targeting to have it wrapped up next year, but obviously it gives us a little buffer. Both entities were working on our PRNL our vision plan, and they're updating their strategic plan for their organization as well. So we're trying to make sure that we can make sure if there's anything that comes out of those processes that we want to also integrate into this, it allows us that capability. And so that's the reason for the additional time.
Okay. My next question is, I think I answered it when I was reading the memo, so I'm good. Thank you.
Councilor Baker?
Yeah, it's my understanding that the really pickleball court was moved from the west side of the shopping center to the east.
Are you talking related to the MAC?
No.
No, I'm
sorry,
talking
John.
about,
No.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I was thinking.
PRNL, sorry,
Yes, it
apologize.
was. Originally planned on the west side of
NA.
the building. It was originally planned for the west side of the building.
and that's why the people in the townhomes had written the correspondence.
That's correct. It was originally planned there. We engaged the community. The applicant took the feedback and decided to move it to the street side.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Any reports, Councilor Izzetti? Counselor Seymour.
Yeah, last week, Thursday, I attended the Parks and Recs Library Open Space meeting. There was an update, significant update on the Westminster Hills Open Space. And that open house is next week, I believe. Tomorrow, okay? I'm off a week. I lost a week someplace. Friday, great Veterans Day ceremony. Thanks to everyone who put that together, and there was no snow, so that was even better. And Friday evening, I attended the Chamber farewell gathering for Juliet Abdel, who is moving on to bigger and better things. I guess you could say that in Topeka, Kansas, someplace, I guess. So,
And where are they at in their search?
I have not heard, the last thing I heard was they had over 100 applicants.
So there's
They had-
3, and their vote was today.
Was it?
One of
Okay,
them.
good. Yeah, because I knew they were narrowing that down quickly. Stopped by the Turkey Drive, Westminster Fire in Arvada, Westminster Fire 1, go Fire. And I think that was it for last week.
Okay. Counselor Emmons?
I was out of office.
Counselor Baker?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem?
A couple of things. So, Inclusivity Board this last week, they had a discussion about the recommendations, what to do with the funds that we talked about last time. And it sounds like they, if I remember right, they went ahead with the idea of putting the money towards the utility fund. At your suggestion, they like that, so I believe that's what will come back to us whenever that comes back to us. So I believe we still have to approve that. They also had a lot of questions around, now that the election's behind us and wards were passed, how that's gonna happen. I know we don't exactly know that yet, so I told them that my understanding was that there'd be some sort of task force to look at that. They certainly were interested in being involved in some way. I did share with them that a lot of drawing the lines has, state dictated law about how that happens as far as how the balance. But that my understanding was, probably one of the areas was how many wards. That's something we have to decide. So that's certainly something that they could participate in. And I shared that I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd be happy to share with them that we talked about, utilizing our boards and commissions as we figure out who the task force or whatever it's gonna be. So they made sure that they wanted you all to know that they were interested in participating in some way, whatever that looks like. So I said that I would bring that back. The other thing I wanted to bring up, just, so everybody knows, I did get a phone call from Jane, the Westminster window around Kettner Lake. Being in my neighborhood, I certainly have heard a lot about that, and I appreciate staff continuing to work on that issue. I did direct her for any technical things to certainly contact city manager's office, but shared what we've been told, and that I certainly had advocated and asked for ways for us to look at refilling that, and the city manager's response I shared with her. So the other thing is, because I've seen a lot of bad information on, especially next door.
No.
In the neighborhood, I've been trying to take the information from Manager Freitag and share it with the threads that I get tagged in, so that folks know, what's going on. Because I've heard some interesting ideas about what's going on, from we're trying to drain it to develop it to a lot of things that aren't true. So I wanted to make sure that we hit that head on. But in my thinking through that, one of the things I wanted to ask the city manager about was when we did our water roundtable, and I know I've brought this up in the past, it was mentioned by former city manager Bill Christopher that there is some sort of IGA historically that would allow us to get water from our neighbors in an emergency situation. That's the only time I've heard that IGA mentioned, and there was ask after that meeting for us to research what he was talking about, because I certainly would be interested in what that is. And it came to memory as you talked about the status of those canals that potentially could be used to fill Kettner. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to ask staff if that's something that you could follow up with council on, that we could get educated about.
Sure, we can absolutely run that to ground. I'm not tracking what that document is, but I'm sure someone on staff knows where to find that. We'll get that out to the council.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yep.
Councilor Numott?
So, just wanted to also thank staff for the Veterans Day ceremony and just honoring all the staff, and that was really special, so it was a great event. And then I, last week, attended Denver Regional Council of Governments work session, and the governor's office gave us an update on their budget request. I'm sure some folks have seen that, others may not have, and I think just I'll highlight the interesting ones that, I mean, there's a lot going on, but I just wanted to highlight. So they're requesting, the governor's office is requesting approximately $136 million to go toward housing-related items. And so that includes strategic growth planning assistance, so housing plans as well as comprehensive plans. They are focusing in on accessory dwelling units and helping to get those financed, and they're putting in that request, they're asking for about $18 million to assist in particular with financing those, since we all know how difficult those are to build. They're not cheap. And then, and that's also something that, as a tangent, I don't think we currently allow for ADUs everywhere in the city. So, as one of the tools to expand our housing options, maybe that's something that we look at in the near future. I don't know where we're, I know that was in the comprehensive plan, but, just where on the docket it might be. And if there is funding potentially coming down the line, we may want to move that up. And then they are focusing in on transit-oriented communities, of which I would say we have a few. And so the communities are essentially transit areas. So like Westminster Station and downtown would be a couple of those within Westminster. They're asking for $65 million to go towards that. $30 million would go towards in providing additional housing tax credits for projects in those areas. And $35 million would go towards infrastructure in those areas. And I thought that was definitely relevant for us. Think about Westminster Station. We have stormwater retention or drainage areas that we're looking at needing to construct to continue to develop that area. So that would be something I'd be really interested to see if it comes to fruition, that we hopefully could get a hold of. Other interesting things they have is $16 million towards, they're calling it Space to Create tax credits, and that would go towards artist housing, placemaking, revitalization, and I think that again sort of aligns with some of the thinking we have in some of our, like especially in Westminster Station, and then just some other, they have a couple of other smaller things, but I think another just bigger picture message that they have regarding their thinking, their approach to housing is that they're working on establishing alignment between strategic growth goals for the overall state and the region, and aligning that with Dr. Cogg's Denver Metro vision, which we're all a part of. And so that means aligning with urban centers and just instead of creating something new and trying to, work towards within something new, they're thinking more, let's already work with the cities and where they've established and, urban centers, and try and get them to, utilize incentives in those areas. And it's more incentive-based versus you have to do everything or else. So I think that's a good direction in response to where 213 was last year. I think they're really just focusing in on, there's a lot of cities that want to do things and have been doing things, and just hearing us, I think they're coming back with a more suitable response. So yeah, it's good. So more to come on that. I just wanted to give that little update and
good.
yeah.
Thanks. Anything else?
No, I'll stop.
Veterans Day was fantastic, so the behind the scenes people and sitting in the shade where it was a little cooler with their beanies on and everything to make sure everything was tip-top. It was just great, the new statues, and it was a great crowd. People really came to that. The turkey drive was fun. When I ads that said you could get a limit of three of this one. Well, my King Supers only had the limit one. So I had to resort to turkey breasts in order to take enough over there to get there. So because I had been busy all day doing two others, just got there about 20 minutes before they closed. And I was trying to figure out where to go, and the Arvada team was over here. And I heard Jana Kretzel say, "No, she's ours. That's our." And so it was just a fun thing, and we did win. So that was it was great. It was great fun, great camaraderie, and you guys gathered a lot of turkeys. So some people are good dinners that maybe weren't going to otherwise. So I don't know who came up with that whole thing, but that was great. Update on me, I haven't given one for a few weeks because no news is good news in my world. But when I start getting to people, call me. If you hear things third and fourth and fifth hand that are like, what? And I got some of those whats in the last 2 weeks. Very well. I just today finished round 2 with the chemo pills with 3 weeks. That means next week, this coming week is off, and that always makes me happy because I get my energy back, and doctors seem to be a little amazed at how I'm doing. We've gotten some test results back that one of the first things showed some stuff, and the next one showed it isn't there. So I continue to do everything they say and keep my energy up, keep my exercise up to stay strong, and I am doing well. So you hear it from me, and if you hear the other crap going around, thank people for checking in. So, anything from you, sir?
No, Mayor. We're good.
Okay, we'll see everybody not at 7:48, but at 7.
This out
That must
already.
be too tall for somebody to get to.
Glad you called that out.
We're having trouble with the feed, so keep on talking. Welcome to tonight's meeting of November 13th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to this Westminster City Council meeting for November 13th, 2023. We thank you for coming and would like to remind all in attendance that our meetings are subject to the rules of decorum that are posted at the back of the room. These rules are in effect while our meetings are in session as well as during breaks and transitions between meetings. We want to be sure all feel welcome and remind all that there is an expectation that no attendee shall disrupt this meeting and that threats and intimidation are prohibited. Signs and placards are prohibited in council chambers, and all attendees shall remain seated in their seats provided, not in the aisles, nor shall the doorways be blocked. Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Present.
Counselor Emmons.
Present.
Counselor Azadi.
Here.
Mayor McNally.
Here.
Counselor Nermella.
Here.
And Counselor Seymour.
Here.
That brings us to the minutes of October 23rd. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the October 23, 2023 meeting as presented.
Counselor Emmons.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of October 23rd. Are there any other comments or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to proclamation for small business Saturday. Counselor Seymour?
If I could have the owners of HD Escape Room come down, and anyone who came with them, and anybody, everybody. They don't want to come up? Come around here. You get to face
Go
out this
drag
way
them
like
down
us.
here.
All right. All right, I'm going to have you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your business. It's a free commercial, so don't leave anything out there, okay?
Thank you guys for having us. My name is Jeff Doan. I am the D for HD Escape Rooms.
And I'm Josh Holder. I'm the H for HD Escape Rooms.
So HD Escape Rooms has been around for 7 years now. We opened our first location in Denver and our second location's here in Westminster. We both live in Westminster, so it made a lot of sense to be our second location. We absolutely love creating unique themed experiences for folks and allowing them to step into other worlds. So HD Escape Rooms, our tagline is Live the Movies. We want you to feel like you stepped into a film. So every location is a movie theater theme, and every room you step into is a different film that you might step into. From there, you get to solve various puzzles and interact within the environment that you're within to hopefully achieve greatness and make your way through and solve everything and show us how intelligent and smart you are. If not, then we're there for that too. We actually have staff who help you through and make sure that you're able to be successful in your adventures at our locations.
So you have staff that help people when they can't make it out?
You do find out who your dumb friends are, too.
Okay, well, yeah, you'd have to leave snacks for me because I'd be back there looking for food too. So this is here for our proclamation for Small Business Saturday, and I appreciate you coming up and accepting this on behalf of all the small businesses in Westminster. So let's get to this. Whereas the government of Westminster, Colorado celebrates our local small businesses and contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 33.1 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States and are responsible for 62.7% of net new jobs created over the last 28 years. So, whereas small businesses employ 46.4% of the employees in a private sector in the United States, and whereas nearly 94% of Westminster's businesses are small businesses who create jobs and spur economic growth, and whereas on average 33% of consumers' holiday shopping will be done at small independently owned retailers and restaurants, whereas 91% of all consumers believe that supporting small independently owned restaurants, bars, and is important, and whereas 76% of all consumers plan to go to one or more small businesses as part of their holiday shopping, And whereas Westminster, Colorado supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Nancy McNally, Mayor of Westminster, Colorado, do proclaim November 25th, 2023 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our communities and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Signed this 13th of November, 2023, Nancy McNally.
That moves us to the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. The public comment portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the public to communicate with the City Council. Each participant will be given no more than 5 minutes on any topic they choose. Public comment is not intended for a back-and-forth discussion. There is a public hearing scheduled for an item tonight. If you wish to speak, please hold your comments and testify when the public hearing is called. Tonight, there's one public hearing. That is for the 9th amended preliminary development plan for the Mission Hill/Silo Commercial Subdivision, second replat, Lot 6A. The city clerk has informed me we have 0 emails tonight. We have 3 people signed up to speak, and we have 0 voicemails. City clerk, if you would call the first person to the podium.
The first person signed up is Craig Russell.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to see the council today. How you guys doing? Hope all's well. Hey, and good to hear this proclamation for small businesses. I think landlords would be considered one of the small businesses in Westminster as well, would they not? So I wanted to reiterate the fact that I've been here for the last 2 years talking to this council about the systematic inspection program that we have in Westminster. Haven't really gotten anywhere with that. I've requested several times with this council to have some kind of constructive conversation, including the landlords, including the tenants, not just the city staff, on what city staff thinks is great. Just for everybody's background on that, as far as we've gotten was a study session that we had a little over 1.5 years ago, where the staff came in and patted themselves on the back on what a great job they've done and how necessary this is and how they've achieved all their goals. But again, they never, ever talked to any of the tenants and got their opinion. They've never talked to any of the landlords and gotten their opinion. I'm asking again that we sit down and have a discussion and talk and take all sides and consider this thing and see what we need to do to make adjustments on it. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm not saying it's good. It could certainly be a whole lot better. And I think that city staff and the city council needs to really address this. Also, 3 months ago, I was in here and I talked about pricing on water. I related it to going to a gas station and half of you pay $3 a gallon for gas and the other half has to pay $7 for the same gallon of gas. That is what we do here in Westminster. If you rent and you're in a 4-plex, 6-plex, duplex, and you're a renter, you pay over $8 for the same amount of water that a homeowner pays $3 for. We're asking for affordability here in Westminster, but yet we have to pay business licenses to have a business, I understand, but we have to pay inspection fees for inspections that we may not even need, and we pay a lot more in our water bill than anyone else. Those charges get passed on to the tenants. It's not fair for our tenants to have to pay more for the same service as somebody else pays for at the same cost. They're not getting any greater benefit for it. So I'd like us to consider that again. It's been over 3 or 4 months. City staff has never gotten back to me on that. And I'd like to get not be ignored. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is John Palmer. Thank you. The next speaker is Chris Stimpson. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tempore, City Councillors, City Manager and City Staff, good evening. Yeah, I'm speaking tonight basically in my capacity as Chair of the Environmental Advisory Board. And I've been doing some background research over the last few months. Specifically on, I started with the Denver City's Waste No More program, and this was a citizens' initiative ballot from last year, which passed like on 70% of the vote. And in a nutshell, it's to say that apartment buildings, condos, food service, hotels, and arenas where you have events have to provide composting and recycling as well as trash. The implementation task force reported last month, and this thing is going ahead in Denver. Put one idea in your mind, though, that part of that is that when they talk about apartment buildings and apartment developments, they go down to developments of as few as 8 dwellings. So, you know, you can think of a huge apartment developed with hundreds of dwellings. This goes down to, 8 dwellings. That could be one building. That's an important point. New York has just announced, I read just a couple of weeks ago, the city of New York is doing the same thing under a different name, composting and recycling and waste. Boulder, Colorado, they call it something different. They call it the Universal Zero Waste Ordinance, and this applies to all properties, not just the apartment developments and the food service, but your single-family homes. That shouldn't be too. I mean, I have a compost thing in my backyard, but that's easy if you're in a single-family home. Not so easy if you're in a big development. And there are other communities around the country that have done or are doing exactly this. What I was trying to do in all of this, not very successfully, was finding out costs of doing this. I mean, I get curbside recycling and I do my own composting. If you're talking about a big apartment development, they've got the trash skips, but now you're thinking of, oh dear, we've got to have a recycling skip as well for people to walk to from their apartment, and maybe a composting skip as well. It now gets a little more complicated. And the concern that I had, that City Council may be very concerned about, is what would this cost? Because if you're living in a high-density, multi-unit housing development, it may be your low income. And if this is, and I would guess it would, put a cost burden through the owners of the development to the people who live in those apartments, how bad is that going to be? Is that going to be a killer for such a project? It's obviously a worthwhile and in many places a popular project, but there is always this issue of, is it going to be more expensive than people in one-bedroom apartments can really handle? I also spoke to my own waste and recycling company, Waste Connections, and spoke to the lady there about this issue. And oh yes, and yeah, trying to find out the cost. Boulder told me, well, we contract out the waste collection just as Westminster does, so we don't have any visibility into the cost of doing this. Bless you. Too much waste. But she said that they do this. Waste Connections do some of this in Boulder. She said composting is more expensive than recycling. And I'm not quite sure why, except my guess is recycling has been with us for quite a few years. You've got the sorting centres that know what they're doing. Composting, you've got things rotting, and that's a little more difficult to deal with. But she also said that Waste Connections have their own landfill in Boulder County, and they capture the methane gas from the food that's rotting in that landfill and sell it. So that goes against the total expense. I asked
your
her
time
for the,
is up.
Oh, it is. 5 minutes. Sorry about that. All I would ask council is to consider this. The Waste Connections or any of the vendors would come in and sit with staff and council to see what they would maybe charge for this, if council was interested in taking that forward at all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's the last person I had signed up. Is there anybody that came in late and didn't get signed up with all of our technical issues? Come on down.
Just came in late, so
Welcome.
thank you. What do you need me to state? Just my name? Tom Lampo. Okay. It's good to be back in front of you. I'm here to pray for the city of Westminster, but first I want to go back to Exodus 14:13 through 14, because it's important in today's world. It states, Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." As we live through these unprecedented times, God wants two things from us. He wants us to know him, and as Exodus stated, to stand firm or to be still. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in Jesus Christ's holy name, we invite you here to the city of Westminster. I lift up all people to you and ask that you make your presence known to each and every one of us. You are needed and welcome in our daily lives. You reign over all. You are God Almighty, and nothing escapes you. You set the foundations of the earth, and you have reach over its four corners. We can rest in the assurance given to us in Isaiah 46:9-11. Remember what happened long ago, for I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and no one is like me. I declare the end from the beginning, and from long ago what is not yet done, saying my plan will take place, and I will do all my will. I call a bird of prey from the east, a man for my purpose from a far country. Yes, I have spoken, so I will also bring it about. I have planned it, I will also do it. You are the master planner. We'll go where you lead us. Your love for us is immense. While you knew we would hate you, you loved us. Romans 5:8 states, but God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Your love covers all wrongs. Again, show us your love. We are still stubborn and headstrong. We need for Psalm 25:4-5 to come alive in our lives. The psalmist wrote, "Show me your ways, Lord. Teach me your paths. Guide me in your truth and teach me, for you are my God, my Savior. My hope is in you all day long." You want us to be still and rest as our faith and trust are in you. You will fight the spiritual battle. Victory is yours. We will wait on you. We will stand firm, and we will draw closer to you. In your precious and victorious name we pray. Amen. Thank you guys, and have a nice night.
Thank you. I didn't see anybody else stand up, so that brings us to city manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, ladies and gentlemen that are in attendance, anybody who may be watching or listening through other means. So if we could go to the next slide. A couple updates. So last week was the municipal election. These are unofficial results. I say again, unofficial results, but 3 city council seats for regular 4-year terms were on the ballot. Unofficial results indicate that Christine Ireland, Claire Carmelia, and Amber Hott will be the newest members of the city council. I did follow up with the city clerk earlier this evening. We expect to receive an update on numbers from the 2 counties on Thursday. Then there is an audit which will occur next Monday, but the canvas process won't be finished until the 27th or 28th of November. And so after that, we'll have some official results. Also, just as a reminder, we mentioned this 2 weeks ago, but new elected officials will begin their respective terms on Monday after that final canvas is completed. And so for us, that would be December 4th, okay? The advisory ballot question asking the city to propose a system of electing some or all of our city council from geographic wards, that appears to have passed. And the 4 city charter questions also appear to have passed, and that was one on budget control, one on budget procedures, another on how we do contracts, and another on the definition of publication and mailing of notices. So that's currently our municipal election unofficial results. Utility bill improvements. This was something that we discussed early in my time here, either last fall or early of 2023, but that's how our utility bills are set up and structured. And so I'm pleased to report that as of November 2nd, utility bills now include additional information to include contacts, definitions of fees, payment terms, and a definition of the grace period, which is 4 days following the due date. Before that late fee is assessed. And then also, one of future enhancement will have a QR code on that where folks will be able to get a language translation on the bill. So very, very nice improvements there, and appreciate the team working those things over the course of the last several months. Next update, the Diekman property. This is great news for the community, been a sensitive subject for many, but the city received our final demolition permit from CDPHE, and so we will be able to start the demo and the cleanup, if you will, at the Diekman property on November 27th, obviously depending upon weather. Next slide. So our Westy wins. Westminster Legacy Foundation held its 2023 Community Awards 2 Fridays ago, and so congratulations to our very own Mayor McNally. She was honored with the Nancy Heil Lifetime Achievement Award. And this award is given to a proven community leader whose energy, passion, dedication, wisdom, and deeds have made Westminster a better place to live, learn, play, and prosper. Mayor Pro Tem, in his remarks on the video, said, "The mayor leads with joy and looks for the best in people." And as many folks already know, the mayor has served the community in countless ways, large and small, for decades, from serving on city council and the school board to even spreading joy with her baked goods. And so congratulations to Mayor McNally. The other one is our golf professional at Legacy Ridge Golf Course, Joe Carlton. He was awarded the Above and Beyond Award. And this award acknowledges a person who goes above and beyond their employer-designed duties and responsibilities. And so Joe really works diligently each year to support the foundation's annual golf tournament. He goes above and beyond by working as part of the planning committee, making players feel welcome and providing the very best experience for the day of the event. And so we want to say congratulations also to Joe for kind of stepping above and beyond his normal duties there at the golf course. Speaking of golf, this is a great news story. So the city has now surpassed the all-time revenue record for golf at the end of September. We had over $5 million in revenue by October 2023. Golf rounds have eclipsed the all-time rounds record of 80,354 rounds, which was set in 2018, and we're now at 82,557 rounds to date here in 2023. And so great things happening in our city golf program. Next slide, please. And then I wanted to introduce our 2 new department directors. So if I could have both David Guo and Paul Knippel stand up together. And I'm going to say a few things about them, but these are the 2 individuals. We're glad to have them join our city team. David Guo is the new Director of Information Technology. He started officially on November 6th. Previously, he served as the IT Director in the city of Brighton, so he is very, very familiar with the Denver metro area. He's an accomplished technology executive, distinguished career in public sector IT. He's been serving, as I said, in Brighton, and where a couple of his major projects were large capital projects with fiber construction, enterprise architecture design, and cybersecurity. And so we want to say certainly welcome to David. Glad to have you on the team. Okay? And then next is Paul Knippel, Director of Public Works and Utilities. He also started on November 6th, so that was a busy day for both of them. We welcome him to the team from Frisco, Texas, where he served as the Director of Public Works for about 14 years, if I remember correctly. So long time. That city is twice the size of Westminster, and during the time that he was there, the city of Frisco doubled its population. So if you can imagine a whole lot of growth and development that he was a part of. And so he's certainly focused on all those things you would expect a Public Works and Utilities Director to be involved in, from engineering, construction, inspection, and the list goes on there. But again, we want to say welcome to Westminster, welcome to Colorado. Glad to have you on the team, Paul. Okay, gentlemen, welcome. Next slide, please. Some things to know. So tomorrow evening is the Westminster Hills Open Space Area Management Plan Conditions Report public presentation. It goes from 6 to 8 p.m., and that is at Westview Recreation Center. Our Planning Commission this week has been canceled. That would normally be on Tuesday evening. And also a special permits and license board meeting scheduled for this week has been canceled. Of note, on Thursday evening is the Uplands Quarterly Construction Update. And that's something that we've developed as part of things really getting to go, if you will, with the Uplands project. We've got dirt turning out there and projects being approved to move forward. That is on Thursday, November 16th, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. at Crown Point Academy. And that will include a city update, an Uplands update, and then any questions that the public wants to bring to the meeting, they certainly can, and we can provide updates as requested. But we will continue that program on a quarterly basis as we go through this very lengthy and involved and I would offer complex construction period in that area. Santa is coming to Westview on Saturday, November 18th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's out at Westview Recreation Center. And then our next City Council study session is Monday, November 20th, 6:30 p.m. right here in Council Chambers. Next slide. No information only items this evening. I do want to point out one thing for Mr. Stimpson, frankly, and for the council's recollection, and that is he talked about the composting and recycling ordinances that are operating in Denver and Boulder, and the council during our October 30th budget AAR raised that as something that they would like to learn more about from the city staff, and so we'll be providing an update to the council in the coming months. I'm thinking just based upon what I see on the agenda between now and Christmas, probably not going to happen, but maybe early in 2024. But just follow up for Mr. Stimpson and for the council. As always, city wants to be accessible, responsive, transparent, and accountable. You can reach out and contact me directly at 303-658-2006. You can email me directly at mfreitag@westminsterco.gov. And as always, you can follow us on X, like us on Facebook, check us out on Instagram, or ring our bell at Nextdoor. Pending any questions, that's all I have this evening.
Any questions? I see none. Thank you. Brings us to City Council comments. Councilor Emmons.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager Freitag. I wanted to address Mr. Stimpson's comments. 2 weeks ago, we didn't meet last week. I went to the Environmental Advisory Board, as you recall, and so I brought that concern and comment to council at our last meeting, and as Mr. Freitag said, we moved it forward to look at for staff. So the next one is welcome to Westminster. Glad to have you here, but I also wanted to give a shout out to Sarah Borgers, who's held that interim role for Public Works Director. She's been a solid leader for the last few years, so I just wanted to give her acknowledgement on her work that she's done with our city. So welcome. Thank you for being here and joining us, but also just a nod to Ms. Borgers.
Anyone else? That brings us to consent agenda, items 8A through L. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve consent agenda items 8A through 8L.
Councilor Mella?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass consent agenda items 8A through L. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem DeMott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
And Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item 10A, a public hearing and consideration of the ninth amended preliminary development plan for the Mission Hill/Silo Commercial Subdivision, second plat, replat, Lot 6A. It is 7:47, and I will open the public hearing, and good evening. We have a staff report.
That's right. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Councilors. John McConnell, Interim Planning Manager, here to provide the staff presentation for this item. Next slide, please. A staff agenda memo has been created, and tonight's public hearing has been properly noticed. The agenda memo is associated attachments to tonight's PowerPoint presentation. The public notice is published in the Westminster window. The mailed notices and the posted notices are hereby entered into the public record at this time. The notices of the public hearing were mailed to over 1,500 property owners and addresses in 5 HOAs within 1,000 feet of the parcel under consideration tonight. The city has also posted the hearing date and time on its website. Next slide, please. Here's a map of the Mission Commons silo commercial property. The parcel is outlined here in red. The parcel is located at the northwest corner of Wadsworth Parkway and 88th Avenue. Next slide, please. The applicant is requesting a preliminary development plan amendment that would facilitate the addition of outdoor sports recreation courts as a permitted use. There's already an existing indoor pickleball recreation facility within the center. The addition of the outdoor courts is a supportive use to the indoor operation. The full list of allowed uses is located within attachment 1 of the agenda memo. And it is the intent of the applicant to provide outdoor pickleball courts in this case. The generic term outdoor recreation courts was preferred for the PDP amendment to allow future changes in preferences of customers. Next slide, please. Section 11.5.14 of the Westminster Municipal Code contains 10 criteria that are to be considered when reviewing rezonings and preliminary development plans. Staff finds that the preliminary development plan amendment generally meets these criteria as outlined in the agenda memo. Several examples of these criteria are that the PDP is compatible and harmonious with existing public and private development in the surrounding area. Streets, driveways, access points, and turning movements are designed in a safe and convenient manner, and that the PDP will not preclude future land dedications. For those selected example criteria, staff finds that the PDP is compatible with existing developments in the surrounding area, and that the access points are designed in a safe and convenient manner, and that the PDP will not preclude future land dedications. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that the City Council hold a public hearing and approve the proposed preliminary development plan amendment with the condition that the outdoor sports courts are prohibited from being located on the west side of the site between the building and the adjacent residential neighborhood. The recommended condition is stated more formally in the agenda memo. Next slide, please. The staff finds that a recommendation of approval of the the Planning Commission heard this case on September 26, 2023, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval of this by a vote of 6-0. Next slide, please. Staff finds that a recommendation of approval for the application would meet the city's strategic plan priority of preparedness and resilience by allowing aging commercial centers to adapt to market demands over time and to enable continued retail sales tax collection for the city of Westminster and to promote private property owner business success. The amendment also satisfies the strategic plan priority of a shared sense of community by allowing the business owner to expand on a popular outdoor recreational activity for the community. The applicant is with us tonight, Mr. Sam Brown, and Mr. Brown does have a presentation. The question did come up in the pre-meeting regarding the location of the proposed outdoor recreation courts, and I do want to confirm with the City Council and the community that the applicant does propose those outdoor courts to be located in the parking lot between Wadsworth Parkway and the commercial buildings and not behind the building as originally planned. That was the initial idea that the applicant brought forward. The applicant did engage thoughtfully with the neighboring residents. They didn't get a lot of positive feedback for the proposed courts being on the back side of the building next to the residents, and they changed course on that, and now they're supporting the courts being in front of the building. Mr. Brown?
Okay.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Sam Brown. About 13 years ago, my kids and I bought the Mission Commons Shopping Center. It had severe vacancies, was run down. First slide, please. That shows the area. It lies between 88th and 90th on the west side of Wadsworth. Besides vacancies and rundown, it had a vacancy rate much higher than competing properties. I've tried to keep it attractive and vibrant because my commercial real estate office is there and because it's an important feature of the community. About 5 years ago, 12 years ago, with all the operations, I could no longer play tennis, and I heard this strange sound, pickleball. And since then, I've never touched a tennis racket again. And I started playing, and 5 years ago, I discovered that if you're under 18 years of age, there are thousands of tournaments around the nation, and you can't play. Why? Well, the older people don't want the younger people playing. I could tell you we had a tournament and high school kids won it, but the only team to beat them was, they totaled 38 years, and the only team to beat them was an old guy with me, and we totaled 138. So I don't believe the age thing. Anyway, I created a nonprofit which has helped boys and girls clubs to get pickleball, and we teach them. And in 2021, I had the opportunity to get rid of a Sears store. You may remember it. And I did. And I spent $950,000 rehabbing the whole place, everything. And this was done by my nonprofit. I didn't expect to make a profit. Have any of you ever played pickleball? No? It's easy, it's fun, and it's inexpensive. And I could tell you that with the growth of pickleball at that time, 5 years ago, was 10%, and I created the first company that is authorized to sell pickleball franchises. And I thought municipalities could lease or license for their use. Well, since then, now it's about 25-30% growth a year, the fastest growing sport in the world. So you can't get on a court. The municipality public courts are being inundated.
So the result is that there's tremendous need for outdoor courts. Now, because of TV coverage and magazine and newspapers, in 20 months, we have accumulated 15,000 registered players. This isn't pen pals. These are people that play or have played at our facility. But what has blown my mind, we have had over 400 municipal, nonprofit, corporation, and birthday parties in 20 months. So with success, and we teach twice a week, we teach free pickleball for free, the basics, which we get great responses. But the nicest part, with all of my real estate, my night job is teaching pickleball. And when you teach someone who has never played any sport in their life, and they try pickleball, and they can do it, it's like a butterfly being released, and they love you. Anyway, with success comes problems. There have been many people that have tried to copy us. In fact, we had a bartender, I didn't hire, but we had a bartender who took the job with the intent to steal our operating procedure, and he's supposed to start a competing facility on Wadsworth down in Wheat Ridge. So having outdoor courts is really important. Why? Because even like a day like today, when it's nice out, pickleball players would prefer playing outside. Now when it's hot or windy or snowy, whatever, that's different. But it's so bad, as successful as we have been on nice days, we can't afford to have the doors open from 9 o'clock in the morning until noon, because it's not profitable. If we had outdoor courts, we could solve that. And so that's the major problem, is covering warm days and getting people in. Now, the location of the courts, I think it might be slide 2 or 3 again. So we had a parking lot. We're way over parked. And we have a parking lot in 13 years has never, ever been used for anything. Some errant snowplower has stored his equipment there, and we threw him off, but never used. So it's the planning department's suggestion. We originally planned it for behind the space, and there was 3 objections, and one of them was serious about noise. And so we took it to heart, and so we moved it to this location, which is next to a very noisy, busy, 50,000 cars a day. And it's, I think the last slide, or number 5, shows it's at least 500 feet from any residential. And so that's the location we'd like to locate it. If you would approve this amendment, it would be appreciated, and I think it would be a great benefit to the community. If you look at who offers public outdoor facilities, neighboring Arvada beats us. They have 24 courts at Apex outdoors, night lit. And in Westminster, I'm not sure there's more than 2, if that. So I'd appreciate your approval, and if you have questions, I'll try and answer.
Thank you. Any questions of either?
Yeah.
Councilor Namella?
Yeah. I'm a tennis player, so let that rest.
Councilor Namella.
But the question I have is really about the connectivity that you might have. So the only concern that I'm trying to understand better is the pedestrian connection between the pickleball facility that you have, and then this location that you've identified is pretty far over on the east side of the parking lot, and I just am trying to understand, functionally, are people going back and forth between the facility and this court, and just how do you make it so that it's safe to have that? Because in a park where we would have a pickleball facility, there'd be a sidewalk and safe connections, and this is the only thing that gives me pause about just this use.
That's a good question. You would have to go from the indoor facility to the outdoor, and it's through a parking lot. And the parking lot is so huge, it's not a serious problem. And that's, once an hour is when you have movement. But that's a good question. In fact, with all my injuries, I have one of these little motorized carts. And if we get our liquor license extended to the patio there, the bar manager says she'll run the cart back and forth. But you raise a good question.
For staff, is this something that, I know this is just a PDP amendment for use, for a use change, but is that something that can be addressed in a site plan?
Yes, absolutely. We are working with Mr. Brown on an official development plan. We haven't gotten far enough along in the design of that to identify the safest route or how we might mark that route or whether golf carts would be used or anything. We're in the early stages of that. I know Mr. Brown was concerned about getting potentially the land use right, the permitted use on that before he went further in the design process. But it would be a priority for staff to ensure the safety of the patrons, the safety of the public. We want to make sure there aren't stray balls going out in the street and other places. And so a lot to consider. But it's new territory, and we're excited to work with Mr. Brown on this.
Yeah, I think it's, all right, thank you.
Before I call on others, and I have you all listed, so you'll get, I need to ask for public comment first. What do we have?
We have nobody signed up.
Okay. Is there anyone here that didn't get signed up that wants to speak? Okay. Then now to council questions. Councilor Azadi.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your presentation. So I actually live pretty close to Mission Commons, and my question is related to, there's a Chase Bank right there, and a Burger King, I believe, is to the north, right?
Yes.
How is a pickleball court enclosed in terms of balls flying around? Would those businesses mind having a court right there next to their buildings?
Well, they probably love the business, but the court would have a 6 to 12 foot fence. So anyone that would hit the ball out of that, it's got to be a little off kilter. And it's far enough away from the sidewalk and Wadsworth that I don't think if you tried you could hit it. A pickleball is an old-time wiffle ball. So it doesn't travel like a baseball or like a tennis ball. So that's a good question, but I think the bank and Burger King would love the additional business. Since I brought in the pickleball facility, we've always had a lot of vacancy. We have leased to 5 new tenants.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Emmons?
Would there be opportunities for outdoor play when it's cold? Because you have people that, you said it's hard to get onto a court. I'm wondering if there's capabilities that you can clear off a court for continued play in cold weather.
I live in an active retirement community, and they're nuts. I've seen them out there when it's freezing, shoveling snow. My old bones don't take it. So it's not impossible. It's very technical. At that place in an Apex, they didn't get the right surface, and I think twice in the last 10 years they've had to replace all the courts, because if you take a shovel and nick the court, moisture gets in there, destroys the court eventually. And Apex spent $250,000 each time. We won't shovel snow. We'll invite them in the warm, controlled environment of the Pickleball Food Pub.
Great. And that kind of leads into my second question. I think I read it in the staff report, but opportunities for food and alcohol for this outdoor area.
There'll be opportunity for food, and if we're approved for alcohol, at there we would have a patio. We have a 24 beer tap bar, and people love it. And people have a beer. We don't get people drunk, but after a game, they like to have a beer. And if we can do that, we'll figure out a way to serve there.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Baker?
This would be for staff. Can you tell me how the loss of these parking spaces affect our requirements on parking?
Yes, Councillor Baker. So currently, the parking requirement for the entire shopping center is calculated as a whole. The requirement is 698 spaces. And as Mr. Brown indicated, they are overparked at 781 spaces. By our preliminary and that's 83 surplus stalls over and above what the city would require. Our preliminary estimate for the pickleball course he would lose about 22 stalls, so that would still leave a surplus of about 61.
Thank you. And then my last question is for Mr. Brown. How really big is a pickleball court?
How what?
How big? What are its dimensions?
The court itself is 22 by 50, basically. But to have room to get outside the actual lines, we figure 65 by 30.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't actually have questions. I have a couple things, one for staff, one for you. I happen to know after I work out, sometimes my wife and I go get Whoppers from that Burger King, and I park under that tree right where your pickleball courts are, and I never am not able to park there, to your point of people just don't park there, and I've seen that plow. So, for whatever it's worth, that part of the parking lot is not. And I have to say thank you for what you've done with this, because I've lived in the area my whole life, and I've seen that center go through a downturn. So it being full for the last handful of years is good. But on the note of what Councilor Nurmela mentioned, my only ask is if this is passed, that we do look at some way for people to get back and forth, whether that's crosswalks or some manner, because I think that that's a really good point, and we certainly, for your business and the community, would want to make sure that we're thoughtful about that, especially if they end up increasing the liquor license out to that portion of the facility.
Thank you.
We can definitely do that. We'll continue to work with Mr. Brown on the design of it. I know it's a priority for him. It'll be a priority for staff as well.
Will there be lighting on this one?
I don't know. When you think about playing at night, there's a rare time in the year where you could even want or play after 9 or 10 o'clock. And so in the summertime, when they would be most used, you wouldn't need lighting. And like I say, in winter, it's not likely to have much use. So, but I don't, at this point, we haven't designed that part, and I can't answer the question.
And I don't know what your hours are for your other part with pickleball and food pub. So will it just line up with the same hours that this outside with the inside one?
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you. I will close the public hearing. It is 8:11. And is there a motion, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the 9th amended preliminary development plan for Mission Hill Silo Commercial Subdivision, second replat, Lot 6A, subject to conditions set forth in the summary of staff recommendations herein. This recommendation is based on the finding that the preliminary development plan amendment generally complies with the criteria section 11-5-14 of the Westminster Municipal Code.
Councilor Numella?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass item 10A1. Is there any further discussion? I appreciate you looking outside the box and trying to figure out, that is a huge parking lot that's never been full, just never. And so taking something and maybe even having it outside, helping people even recognize that it's there, and those of us that have never played, stop by and they can have a crowd watching how it all happens. So thank you for thinking outside the box. I too want to see something a little clearer of how people don't get ran over, because in that parking lot, because it is so loose, people drive loosely through it, and we don't want anybody hit. So, Mayor Pro Tem?
I would just say I'm excited to see expansion of pickleball. I have not played, and to your point of whether or not somebody could hit a ball out into Wadsworth, I sound just clumsy enough to pull something like that off. But certainly something that we've got a lot of requests for over my time, so it's nice to see that there'll be some additional ability for people to play in the community, because I certainly have been asked for it.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem DeMott.
I'm sorry, Councilor Zadi.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add to that. I tried signing up for pickleball one time at the pub, and the wait list was so long. That's how I know that this is going to be great, because the number one thing that I hear from residents is more pickleball. So thank you.
And I know Councilor Numella, sitting next to you, loves tennis. So have to.
And I love tennis too.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem DeMott.
Yes.
Can I have you say that again? I just don't think.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councilor Nurmela.
Yes.
Councilor Seymour.
Yes.
And Councilor Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That is all of our business for tonight. We are adjourned. Have a safe evening.